Hi, I'm Dr. Ali Hushman. Rowan University is committed to educating the public about the importance of higher education in our state and region. That's why we are proud to support the important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, the Terrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Rowan University, educating New Jersey leaders, partnering with New Jersey businesses, transforming New Jersey's future. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. And by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the beautiful Agnes Veris NJTV studio in Newark, New Jersey. We're pleased to welcome Alfred Doblin, who is the editorial page editor at The Record, and also Max Pizarro, editor of InsiderNJ.com, two of the most astute observers of politics and government in the state of New Jersey. We're doing this at around the Thanksgiving period. Let's take a few weeks back. Alfred, the biggest reason that Phil Murphy will be our next governor is?
He's not Chris Christie.
Oh, come on. Give me more analysis than that.
Well, I think people were ready for a change. Regardless of whether it was Christie, there's a secular change that happens 8 years of a Republican.
No matter who the governor is.
No matter who the governor is, it's very hard for the same party to win after 8 years. But I think people wanted a fresh face, and I think not just that he was not Chris Christie, but he was not part of the Christie administration. So I think Kim Guadagno was not able to separate herself from Christie, and Murphy was promoting a very progressive agenda.
Jump in, Max.
Well, I completely agree with that. And I would also add that what the election revealed, Steve, was how Kim Guadagno's attempt to turn this into suburbs versus cities failed, ultimately, because she uncorked this Willie Horton-style ad.
You're talking about the ad where, in fact,
cities, right.
Ambassador Murphy at the time, Ambassador Murphy sat right here, NJTV studio. We asked him about immigration issues. He mentioned sanctuary state, New Jersey. That unleashed what?
Well, it unleashed a last-ditch effort by the Republican candidate to try to gin up suburban support behind her property tax message, and it didn't work. It didn't go anywhere. What happened was the trend lines of New Jersey's demographics proved to outdo and outrun that effort.
You know, and I think, you know, to sort of bounce off of that, also the authenticity factor didn't play.
I mean, who are you really?
Well, I mean, Guadagno has always been kind of a moderate kind of person.
And criticized Donald Trump early on in the campaign when he was running for president.
So the fact that she was then moving so far to the right, that most people, like insiders, view, okay, this is a badly run campaign, because now they're trying some kind of Hail Mary pass, something to just sort of change the equation. But voters sense, I think, when someone is not true to at least their persona. That, I think, was the Christie advantage when he was at his top. Whether that was who he was or not, that is who people thought he was, and it was authentic. And I think Murphy was authentic through and through.
Let's talk about this, because you are both of you cover politics, write about politics, understand politics. But I said to you before that one of the differences with State of Affairs is we actually try to look at the policy side. On the issue of, let's just do this, the top issue you think Governor Murphy will face is?
I think he faces a $50 billion underfunded pension liability crisis.
For public employee pensions?
Yeah.
Why is it a crisis? He said we're going to fully fund it. He sat right here in the debates as well. You asked him in the debate as well. He said, we're going to fully fund it. So what's the crisis?
Because it impacts our ability to have solvency as a state. And for us to undertake anything else, we need to resolve a fiscal catastrophe, which is what he faces once he gets to Trenton.
Do you agree with the word catastrophe, Alfred?
Well, a significant problem. I don't know if I use the word catastrophe, but pretty close. I mean, you know, the bond rating, the credit ratings the state has faced have generally been because of its inability to make the commitment that it said it could make. So he's got a real conundrum because he has been very pro-public employee unions.
Yep.
He's been very clear where he wants to be on funding those pensions, and that's fine as a candidate, but there's only so much money in the till. So I think how he does that is going to be challenging. And he's brought up some other progressive things like legalizing marijuana
Also,
as a revenue.
free public education for those who go to community colleges.
Right, but the marijuana is also a revenue creator for him.
Do you think that's a smart idea, legalizing marijuana?
Personally, I think it's a politically poor choice in the beginning. If he puts a lot of, I don't think there's a statewide consensus about legalizing recreational marijuana.
Not medicinal,
I mean, I
for
think
medical reasons. That's different.
If he eliminated every barrier that the Christie administration has put towards medical marijuana and made the dispensaries work better, made more people have access to it, I think that would be a great beginning. But I think legalizing marijuana in the beginning is a bad use of political capital.
Max, how's it going to play politically?
Well, here's what I would say, Steve. Following on what Alfred said, I believe it's important that he got a 13 to 14 percentage point win. If he had limped in with just the support of the teachers union, for example, if the teachers were the only people on the streets,
more than that.
Right? He demonstrated a capacity to hit a wide range of support systems. So he can go in there and, to Alfred's point, make a convincing case to the teachers, perhaps, that we're going to need some compromises
You're
here.
going back on the pension thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so I think that from a political standpoint, at least he has the advantage of not limping into office.
He has a mandate.
He does.
Real quick on legalizing marijuana. Politically, how does it play?
Well, he has the support of Nick Scutari, who's the Senate
Who's a senator, who's head of the Judiciary Committee,
right,
who's been supportive
got
of
the
this
legislation in place. And he also has the victories in key districts where this issue came to a fore. So I think he has a lot of support.
But if you go back to your question, though, I mean, like, what do people care about?
Yeah, what do they care about?
I mean, I don't think if you went through the 21 counties of New Jersey and asked, medical marijuana, high. Recreational marijuana, I don't really think.
Where would property taxes be?
Property taxes would be high. I think education would be higher.
Define education, because do you mean quality of education? Do you mean fully funding? The public school formula?
Cost of education, so that the cost of education is very much attached to property taxes being too high. So the two are sort of inextricably linked, so you can't really pull them apart. That's the key thing. I mean, if you waste all your political capital on a thing that sounds great in a progressive agenda,
talking about the marijuana thing.
The marijuana thing, and you don't pitch it, well, we're really not doing this for social justice. We're doing it because we need so many hundred.
No, he said right
dollars.
here it was both. Respectfully, Alfred, he said it was both reasons. Economics and social justice.
Yeah, but then he said to us that it was more about social justice than economics. So that position shifted a little, at least in his conversations with the Record over the course of the campaign. I would focus on figuring out a way to fund the education.
The public school formula, which he said he would fully fund.
You do that, and you figure out how not to increase property taxes, and you have a very good first year.
Let me ask you this, Max. If, in fact, Governor Murphy does, in fact, propose raising taxes on the wealthiest New Jerseyans to pay for a lot of this, not all of it, a lot of it, how do you think it plays?
Well, I think the election proved that he has some traction to undertake.
Well, he didn't hide it.
He didn't hide it, and he won by 13 to 14 points. So it was the most significant attack line by his opponent. She said, he's going to raise your taxes, and it's a slippery slope. He's going to raise taxes on millionaires, and then he's going to raise taxes on you. And he won. And he won convincingly, and he has the support of the Senate president on the millionaire's tax.
Steve Sweeney.
Yeah,
so do you think there's a mandate in the legislature to do this?
I do. I think that Steve Sweeney's caucus grew by one, and their Democrats had a very, very good showing, and they ran on a millionaire's tax.
Running on a millionaire's tax is obviously there's so many other factors and variables to the election, but it didn't hurt them.
Well, it doesn't hurt very many people to begin with. So I think it's an easy lift. You know, it's not a hard thing to convince people because there's a very small portion of people who are going to be affected by
But Alfred, respectfully, in the time we have left, what about, and I asked Ambassador Murphy, soon-to-be Governor Murphy, this, Governor-elect Murphy, what happens if some of those millionaires, a lot of those millionaires say, wait a minute, I don't want to pay additional taxes, I'm going to establish my residency in Florida? Potential issue, Max?
It is. It's a potential issue, but Murphy will have to prove that he can run a government, and he'll have to show simultaneously cuts and to absorb something of Guadagno's message, you'll have to exercise cuts in waste, fraud, and abuse simultaneous.
Max Pizarro can be found on InsiderNJ.com, and Alfred Doblin, check him out. I learned something new from every time on the record, and also online.
NorthJersey.com, and you can follow me on Twitter, Alfred P. Doblin.
Follow him on Twitter, how?
InsiderNJ.
Love it. Max and Alfred, good stuff. This is State of Affairs. We will be right back. Thank you, guys.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to welcome once again Dr. Richard Robitaille, Program Manager, U.S. Military Academy at West Point, served 28 years in the Army. Idell Robinson, Trustee of the Newark Bronze Shields, served 8 years with the Marines, been a police officer for 15. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We're here to talk about an issue that's been talked about all across this country, distorted by some, confused by others, but people talk about it. It is the decision made by a whole range of athletes, particularly in the NFL, but in other places as well, to not stand during the national anthem. You see it how, Rich?
Well, I see it as a military veteran. I see it as extremely disrespectful to those who've served, to our country, to those who've lost those in battle. That flag represents everything we fought for, everything we served. When a soldier falls in battle, the first thing that happens to them is their coffin is covered in an American flag. And the very last thing the military does when they bury a soldier is they walk up and they give a flag to the family of the fallen. And they say in appreciation of their service. So that flag represents everything they fought for in terms of, and everything they gave in terms of their own life.
You see it as disrespectful?
I see it as disrespectful.
You see it?
No, I don't. I don't see it as disrespectful, only because the fact that it's not about the flag. It's about the injustices that have faced the African American community and the brown community. I too respect that flag.
Do you stand?
Do I stand? Yes, I do.
But you respect the right of others to not stand.
Absolutely. I also serve on what we call the honor guard. So I too have had the unfortunate pleasure of carrying those to their last and final resting place and presenting that same flag to people who are in bereavement because of the sacrifices that the men and women have offered and gave. We go by a model that all gave some, but some gave it all.
Can you understand some saying, Rich, that is what makes our country, respectfully, I happen to stand as well, but there are many who would argue that is what makes our country great, is the right not to stand.
Well, I believe in freedom of speech just like anybody else.
Is that a peaceful form of freedom of speech?
Well, not in this particular case, especially with the NFL players.
Peaceful?
You know, the First Amendment protects citizens against the government infringing on their First Amendment rights. These NFL players are employees, and they are being paid a great deal of money by people who are paying to go watch a game. They're employees, and any employee has to follow the rules of their employer.
Does that employment and that payment take away your right to
They don't have a right as an
demonstrate?
employee to impose their political will on those who are paying to go there for some other purpose. People are paying money to watch a game. They're not paying there to go to a political protest. These NFL players have full right on their own time to exercise their First Amendment right out on the corner, out in a park, organize their own events. What I see is it's trying to develop awareness without action in a wrong arena.
Idell, do me a favor. Everyone usually talks to the anchor of the show. Can you guys talk to him? Tell him what, I'm not going to say he doesn't understand, but what you would like him to understand. Talk to him.
Oh, one, first and foremost, I appreciate your service. That's one. As a service member, again, I appreciate your sacrifice. But you have to realize that the injustices that which have been done And for him to peacefully execute his First Amendment right, the basic rights that this nation has given us, I think I applaud him. And if you look at it, it's ironic because he got that idea from a service member, someone who gave that ultimate sacrifice.
You're talking about Colin Kaepernick as it began.
Colin Kaepernick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
History is a teacher, correct? If I will. No matter whether he was at work or not at work. You look at the March on Selma, 1965. The kids who set in for the Woolworth, 1960. No one agreed with that. And they peacefully did it. They peacefully exercised their right. But there's always going to be those who feel that for some reason that protest is wrong. But because of those protests, this nation have gained a whole lot and have come a long way.
Rich, go ahead.
Well, I agree with those. You're mentioning what I just said. They are taking an arena in which is an employment issue. It is not out in the public. They are not out on their own free time. They are employees, and they have to follow the rules. They do have their First Amendment rights, but not in that particular area. You bring up the marches in the Civil Rights era. That's true. Those were in public. People went to those of their own free will, and they drove their awareness into action. Dr. Martin Luther King and all the civil rights leaders drove that awareness to action, and they got laws passed. They politicked all the politicians. They got everything they needed done. This is just awareness without action, and it's self-aggrandizement, in my view.
You believe it? You believe that?
Absolutely.
For people like Colin Kaepernick, whose career is, I don't know if it's over, and I hope it's not for his sake if he's good enough to play, but don't you think that some athletes have suffered because of this?
Well, financially.
But how is it self-aggrandizement? Help us understand that.
They're trying to bring awareness, but there's no action. What is he doing in the community? What is he doing to change the laws? What is he doing to work with local police forces?
So if someone were, respectfully, Rich, if someone were to do the things that you thought needed to be done in terms of changing public policy, social policy, then you would be okay with them not standing during the anthem?
This is America. No. Not in that particular area. I still find it disrespectful because of what that flag represents to millions of people and all the Gold Star families that I've worked with in my life who have a flag hung on their wall that was over their husband or wife's coffin, what it represents.
Well, let me just say this.
And I've been in athletic arenas. I was in Madison Square Garden once, and they played the National Anthem, and somebody in front of me was not up.
What'd you do?
I said, you need to stand up. And everyone around that person said, you need to stand up and respect.
You need to stand up as opposed to that person having the right. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So
I have First Amendment rights as well to express my
your
opinion.
Point of view, but okay.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Basically, you're talking about your patriotism to the country, correct? So you feel that standing is patriotic. If it was that patriotic, then they wouldn't be paying, the military wouldn't be paying for them to come out on the field just to, because prior to, 2009, they wasn't even coming out in the field to recognize that flag.
So what are you trying to say? It's a business deal?
So it's a business deal. It's for
millions of us, we do stand, not for money, but because it is our way of showing respect to our country, and the flag's a conduit to that.
What I'm saying is, if it has been that reason for so long, then why was there a deal between the military and the owners,
Department of Defense and the
Department of Defense, to offer up money as basically advertisement in some stance?
Any common ground here? By the way, Steph Curry, help me on this team. Steph Curry wrote an article that you should check out right now. He said many of the issues that are being talked about in terms of African Americans who feel the injustice, whether it's dealing with certain police who have acted in a certain way, all due respect to all the great police of folks out there, but there have been incidents, injustices across the board. He said a lot of veterans are facing that as well, Rich, and that's also a way to express your concern when you don't stand. And you think most veterans
feel the better way to express yourself is to go to your local congressman and petition them. And I have done that with my congressman.
Why is it either or?
What is the action? Are you going to drive action by kneeling and showing disrespect to your country, or are you going to go to your congressman and you're going to politic and you're going to talk to them about what needs to change in whatever policy you believe in, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent? I happen to be of one political persuasion. My congressman is the exact opposite. But he's an Army veteran, and he fights for veterans' rights. So when I go to Congressman Pascrell about those things, he always fights for veterans. That is how you get change. You go to the lawmakers.
Final comments.
So, again, this whole notion that it was meant to disrespect men and women who sacrificed so much for this country is being absolutely distorted.
What's the primary reason for it?
The primary reason is for injustices that have been given out or have not given out in the justice system, not only by police, but just the justice system as a whole. It needs to be reformed.
But finally, Idell, when do we know when that has reached the point where people say, okay, we've made enough improvement, now we will stand? When does that happen?
That happens over time.
It could be years and years for this going on?
It could be years and years for this going on. But if you don't come to the table with an open mind to discuss things in a professional way, then you're not going to get anywhere. And
well,
again,
what you see is what you just saw with the 49ers this week. On Veterans Day, 3 of those players kneeled at the National Anthem. On the day they're supposed to be honoring those in service.
You think it's worse on Veterans Day? By the way, we're going to go longer with this segment, so I just stay with us on this. You think by kneeling on Veterans Day, it was even, quote, more disrespectful?
When the team itself is trying to honor veterans on that day, and you are making a point of disrespecting them on that particular day, that is just, that's unreal to me.
But here's where the conundrum is for those of us who, even if we stand, and I do, and we teach our children that that is the right thing to do, but also want to be open to what the First Amendment is and how it manifests itself in public.
Absolutely.
Rich frames it in a certain way, Idell. He says on Veterans Day, doing it is even more disrespectful to the veterans. You say it has nothing to do with communicating anything about veterans, but only about injustice. You're framing it in a totally different way. Where the heck is the common ground?
The common ground, I said to someone before, I said, well, let's just assume that all the athletes decided to, say, okay, well, we're going to stand. For all the patriotic people that see kneeling as offensive, will you become that outspoken advocate about injustices or for injustices in this community or in this United States of America?
Any injustice should be addressed in the appropriate way. Doing it in an employment area and targeting a population of veterans and Gold Star families to basically insult their service and sacrifice is not the arena.
You're not targeting the veterans. Because some veterans do support it.
Well, if you don't have the perception that when you're taking that knee, you are surrounded by thousands of veterans and how they're going to perceive it.
And also you're
That is fair. By the way, Idell, what about the veterans who are in fact offended? What do you say to them?
I understand their plight. I really do.
But what would you? We respect that. But do you say to them, look, we know you are offended by it. You feel it's un-American, disrespectful to us. But what?
We respect that you feel a certain way. But we are basically exercising, or they are basically exercising their First Amendment right to stand. Are you? With these same patriotic people say they support the Second Amendment. So who is
the right to bear arms?
The right to bear arms.
How is that connected to this discussion?
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, if you can't say for one amendment you feel strongly what we should support, but then you're so patriotic that you're saying, no, we shouldn't support this one as well.
Rich is not saying he doesn't support the First Amendment. He's saying he doesn't believe it's the appropriate venue
place
to express.
Venue.
Okay, let me ask you this in the time we have left. Should the NFL, should the NBA, should professional sports teams, because as Rich said, it's an employment situation. You work for us and you make good money. Well, should professional organizations, professional leagues mandate that you will stand for the national anthem? Do you, if you were the commissioner?
Here's the thing: the NFL already has that rule in place, and they already have enforced it.
Well, then why are people kneeling?
When the Dallas Cowboys wanted to wear that honor and respect on their shoes for those 5 slain police officers,
in
the
Dallas,
NFL told them, no, you can't do it. When the players wanted to wear pink in honor of their mothers and sisters and grandmothers who had breast cancer, the NFL said, no, you can't express yourself. So hold on,
you're saying the NFL should mandate that everybody stand?
They already have.
Okay,
why is it just one issue? They're not.
Where? I don't. If that was the case, if it was mandated, then they would be standing. Or
no, you would. The commissioner is afraid to enforce it on this particular issue. Why did he enforce it with the slain police officers? Why did he not let them do that?
What do you think the commissioner is afraid of? By the way, we're doing this as we. The Giants season's over. It doesn't matter. We're doing this during the holidays.
We don't got to go there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm a Giant fan, but we wish the best to the Eagles. We're seed down there.
Go get a good draft pick.
Okay, but here's the thing. In the minute we have left, I'm going to ask one more time. 2 gentlemen who, by the way, we, on behalf of everyone in public broadcasting, FiOS, and everywhere else we're seeing, we thank you for your service to the Marines to the Army. The question is, two veterans who have given so much to our country see this issue so differently. Is it largely based on the color of your skin that you see it differently in the rest? You think that's the case?
No, because everything isn't about race. Even when it's
not everything. Is this largely about race?
No,
not
in my opinion.
I don't think it's about race at all. In my experience in the Army,
just two guys who served who disagree.
I just disagree.
I've served in combat, and one thing in the Army is, when you're out there, it's everybody helping each other. You only get home, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, you learn to fight together.
To Rich, Idell, I promise you we'll continue this conversation off the air and have you back again. We cannot thank you enough for being here and once again for everything you've given to our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, the Terrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, PSCNG, Rowan University, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, and by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
Think this is absurd? Insurance fraud costs every New Jersey family over $1,300 every year. Report fraud at njinsurancefraud.org.